The DJI Osmo Pocket 3, what they don't want you to know about before buying it. Let's see if we can uncover all the hidden secrets. The DJI Osmo Pocket 3 has been making waves in the creator community, and for good reason. It's a 4K camera, it's got a 3-axis gimbal, and it's like literally, it's right here. It's pocket size, man. I carry this everywhere I go. But should we hop on the bandwagon? Let's find out. Side note, I actually really love this camera, and because of this camera, it has generated so much business for my company. I'll probably make another video about this. But when it comes to buying the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, there are a few common misconceptions with it. I mean, people expect it to be a point and shoot camera, right? Like ready to go, you just set it up, shoot it, and it's good to go, right? Wrong. It's actually extremely sophisticated camera. Like this camera borderline has everything that any other camera has. Like in-depth ISO, shutter speed. I mean, you could buy ND filters for it. I use the ND filters and try to keep it. There's no actual like stat that says what the native ISO is, but I try not to go above like 400 to 600 to try to keep it there. Another misconception is that the Osmo Pocket 3 is a replacement for a regular camera. Now, if you're considering buying this instead of buying a traditional camera, I would say something that's close to competing with this as far as like an entry-level camera that could do, log footage, 60 frames, 4K, I would recommend the Sony ZV-E1. Now, if you're considering this over the Sony ZV-E1, a pro is that this is the creator combo. It's only $700, I believe. And it's probably a little bit less. With taxes and shipping and all that, came at like a little over $700. Now, the Sony ZV-E1, for the body alone, you're looking at $1,900, but you also need a lens. Now, I would recommend the Sigma 24-70. That's the exact setup I have on this camera, which is my B cam. And it's an amazing camera. It literally has so many capabilities. I'm highly impressed with that camera. But if you're considering that versus this DJI Osmo Pocket 3, they both have different things to consider. Now, the Sony is more like a traditional camera, right? It has the capability to swap lenses and add zoom lens, prime lens. It has more capabilities. This has a fixed lens. You also can buy like a wide angle attachment, but you're not gonna be able to get the same amount of dynamic focal length points as a traditional camera. So I wouldn't say that this is a replacement for a traditional mirrorless camera, more of like an accessory to it. Some people think that this camera is just a fancy selfie stick, and it's so much more than a selfie stick. The image quality that comes out of this camera is so insane. I can't even believe it sometimes. It literally competes with, for social media content at least, it literally competes with the Sony, any of my full frame cameras, because it's so much simpler to use. It's so easy to set up, get the shot. It comes with a mic, although I have lost these. Maybe that's part of the cons, is that you can lose these mics. But positive, it's only $100 to replace. So some might think that's expensive. I thought it was relatively cheap for how good this mic is. And there's some people that are worried about the price. Now, let's face it, it's not extremely cheap, but I think it's not expensive at all for what this is capable of doing. Side note, this little camera in the last 3 months has made my business over $100,000. Like, I pulled the stats and it was literally $129,000 that because of this camera generated my business. And I know you're asking like, why, right? How is that even possible? For me, I use it so often. I film videos like all day long. I literally film 2 to 3 videos a day and I post it to my Instagram and YouTube shorts. And because of that, it's generated so much attention. Now, there's a lot of systems that I have on the back end to be able to capture and close those deals, but because of this, it opened up the passion I used to have for filmmaking and video making that I kind of lost because of, the work, how it became work. But let's move on. One of the most unique abilities of the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is the ability to shoot in log footage at 4K 60 frames. Now, 5 years ago, 4K 60 frames was, well, I guess I'm getting a little old now. 5 years ago, I guess it was still industry standard, but before 5 years ago, let's take it back to 2016. In 2016, 4K 60 frames was like a huge deal. I remember switching from the Canon 5D Mark III to Panasonic GH5 because it had 4K 60 frames. So that's completely switching to a completely different system, camera, like everything different just for the fact that it could do 4K 60 frames. So this little tiny camera being able to shoot 4K 60 frame in log footage is incredible. Now, what they don't tell you is that this capability is only in certain features. That's okay though. What it can do is incredible. One of my favorite features is that it shoots already real format. You also can open it up and it can shoot in like horizontal, which I think that's so awesome. I love that it's in vertical format, because when I go to edit it, I just slap it in there. And DJI has some really cool Rec 709 LUTs, but also it gives you a lot of creative dynamic range to color grade. So that's really cool. And I like that it's just like that straight out of camera. You don't have to like turn your camera and shoot it a certain way. It just comes out straight like that. Another really good quality about this is the built-in microphone. Now, I mean, it's not the best microphone in the entire world. You're not like an SM7B or, even this thing. But sometimes when I'm in the car and I forget to turn this mic on, the microphone compared to the first DJI Pocket 2 is so much better. Like, with Premiere and its like enhanced mode, it totally could clean up the audio and make it passable. Like, I've done it a handful of times where I've forgot to turn on my mic, and because this built-in microphone is so good, I'm able to save the footage and still use it. Now, one of the cons is the issue of storage, right? Like, this thing shoots in 4K, 3K vertical. And the SD cards that I have a 128 in it. You have to dump your footage pretty often, which if you're any professional content creator, you have a system and to regularly dump your footage. Sometimes, I'll go a week without dumping it, and, so it's not that bad. But storage, I think they do make high-speed 256s, so that would be something that I would consider looking into if storage is one of your major concerns. And it also needs an SD card. Like, let's back up. It needs an SD card. It doesn't record internally. So make sure you get an SD card. Also, try to get the highest speed writing SD card, because this thing is so, high quality, I guess if you want to call it. The bit rate and the footage size for how compact it is like a significant size. So I think that's awesome. Like, even though it's such a tiny sensor, it's able to capture so much data. So I think that's a really, really good feature of it. I mean, the downside is the storage, but that's okay. And here's something that might surprise you about the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. It's not just a camera, it's a whole ecosystem. So something that I really like about it is that it has an app, and inside the app, I can control it from my phone to set up the shot. So if I'm doing something, I could literally go on my phone, control the shot, set the shutter, set the speed, and record. Another really cool feature that it has is that you're able to record from the camera. I mean, you're able to hit record from your microphone. You just hit this little link thing if your camera's on, and it automatically starts recording. So that was really cool. I used to have to open up my phone and open the app and hit record. But when I figured that out, if I know that I have my frames right, or I know I set my frame up correctly, and it's at the right shutter speed and ISO and everything, I have the ND, and I know all my settings are right, I could just hit record on this little button without having to do too much extra stuff. So that's really cool. I actually really like that. So now, let's talk about some of the cons, like the bads. Like, some of those things could have been subjective to you, right? Like, maybe it was good, maybe it was bad, but let's talk about the cons, the worst features about it. So I don't know, this isn't necessarily a feature, but sometimes it does get hot. Like I mount it to my car a lot. You could unscrew these and you're able to mount it to any type of mount. I have a bunch of different clamps and suction cup mounts, and it's really, really convenient. But it does overheat and it does corrupt some of the files. So be mindful of that. I live in Las Vegas, so it gets really hot, and even with the air conditioning cranking, because it's on the windshield and it's so close to the heat, I guess, it overheats sometimes. And there's some footage, thank goodness there has not been like a critical moment that I've needed to piece a video together. It's just usually like some random clips get corrupted. But that's something to consider, is try to keep it cool, try to keep it out of the heat for an extended period of time. Another con, again, for you to chew on is these microphones. They're a little bit bigger than the original DJI mics, but they're still kind of small. And if you're like me and you take it everywhere, potentially you could lose it. I'm on my second microphone. This thing did get lost. Again, it's not like terrible, right? Like, but they're about $100 to replace. I like to clip it like on here when I'm not using it, and then I put it in my pocket, like straight up like that. I don't know if it's good, or if it's even supposed to be like that, but that's what I do with it, and it works pretty good. You could also use this like if you're interviewing someone. I'm like, hey, here you go. Hey, here you go. So those are my kind of things. Also, the ND filters, it doesn't come with ND filters. You have to buy them, which I highly recommend, because if you don't use the ND filters, you have to get really high up there in the shutter, like 800,000, whatever shutter speed, however high it goes. And then it starts to look like an action camera, like a GoPro or something like that. It kind of loses some of its cinematic. So I recommend getting the ND filters. I'll link below all the equipment that I bought, all the accessories that go with it. But the ND filters are highly, highly effective. The wide angle lens also is like aftermarket. You have to buy it. It comes with the mist filter, but the wide angle is I'm not that stoked on it. It doesn't do much for me. It doesn't get much wider. I shoot mostly vertical for my social media content, so it doesn't get it much wider. I haven't actually tried to use it horizontal, so it might do better. I'll report back on that. But there you have it, folks. Overall, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3 is an amazing tool to add to your tool belt. It's an amazing tool for social media content. It's amazing for behind the scenes. It's amazing for on the street, on vacation. It has a vast arrangement, has a vast amount of use cases. I highly recommend it. However, it's not ever going to fully replace a mirrorless camera with interchangeable lenses and a full frame capability. It doesn't have the same dynamic range capabilities. It doesn't have the same interchangeable lens, zoom in, zoom out, a prime. It doesn't have all the things that a traditional camera does. But like I said, overall, it's an amazing camera, and because of this camera, I've generated tons and tons of business, and I've amplified and grown my social media with it. So if you're considering buying it, I highly, highly recommend it. I don't have a DJI affiliate link, although I should, because all of the clients I have, I've literally consulted so many people in getting it. I kept count till up to 17. After like 17 people who I've convinced to buy this camera, I lost track. So DJI, if you guys see this, hook your boy up with an affiliate code so I could get a little bit of change so that I could keep making some cool YouTube videos. Oh man, I just realized that I had this chair back here in the corner. Oh well, hopefully you guys don't mind it too much.